Welcome to Seniors at Play. I'm your host, Cassandra, and we're joined today by Dr. Marc Rubenstein, a physical therapist and lifestyle consultant. Marc, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me today.
Wonderful.
Very excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. So, Marc, you own, or you recently opened Jersey LiveWell, which is a health management company. Can you tell me more about this?
Yes, I'd love to. So I've been a physical therapist for 17 years, and I love what I do. I've been fortunate to own Jersey Physical Therapy for 15 years with Jeff Hunt and Sean Moore, who are childhood friends. And it's just been a pleasure serving the people of our community in Plainsboro, South Brunswick, and East Brunswick, and just helping them achieve their goals and just to live healthy lives. And basically, about a year ago, I had a health scare where I had a cyst, and they found that it was precancerous. So it was called atypia, and that really shocked me because I thought I was living a healthy life with exercise and diet and things of that nature. And after going through that, and luckily everything kind of worked out well, and after a couple of other tests, I was cleared. But it really shook me a little bit, and I said, well, if I'm living a healthy life and this happened to me, I really have to take charge. And that's when I learned more about prevention and wellness through joining the Academy of Prevention and Health Promotion Therapies, and that is the Ep.8.
Mm-hmm.
And I invested in education over the last year, learning as much as I can about different aspects of wellness. And then I said, well, how am I going to implement this in the community? And I thought that it's very important that I offer these types of services, prevention and wellness and health promotion services, not only to my current patients in our practice, but also to community-wide, and really spread this message of hope that health is a journey, and that and really, if we focus on true health, on promoting it, living it, preventing chronic disease, that we can really really prevent chronic disease, prevent musculoskeletal pain, and live healthy lives. So that's when I started Jersey LiveWell, and the other aspect is we work with companies as well. We know companies are very invested in their employees being healthy, especially those that are self-insured, because they're paying based on the health of their employees. And not only is it the right thing to do, taking care of employees, but it also makes sense from a business perspective. So all these areas, whether it's patients, community, and the workplace, there's just a huge need for the spreading the message and just teaching people how to do this on a practical basis.
Right. And how does this program benefit the elderly?
Well, I think it really can benefit anybody of any age. And the earlier we get the message out, the better, no doubt. But what traditional healthcare has done through the years is it's been more of a reactive system, and that's unfortunate. And what I believe that the way to do this is to pivot and to really focus on true health. And that's when people are healthy or they have mild disease or impairment, and really teaching them ways to stay healthy, to thrive and live healthy. And that's what I believe through different aspects, and through the APHPT, we teach people about the 5 elements of health. And those include move, that the body needs to move every day a certain amount in order to be healthy. Get blood flow moving, get our systems nourished with the blood flow that we need. Fuel, just eating the right types of foods to minimize inflammation and pain, recovery and sleep, and building our resilience. We call that endure. And finally, connecting with people as often as as is appropriate for that person. We're all different, but we know that we value social connections and social interactions as a major determinant of health. So teaching people about each of these aspects has been really fun journey, and we just did this at the Plainsboro Public Library, teaching people about each of these aspects and why, what the problems are, with our health system, what the problems are with the health of our society and chronic disease, and what do we do about it, and by doing these elements, we really can break it down into different aspects and say, well, you know what, everybody, health is a journey, and it's not something that happens right away. You can't say, well, I want to do all this and be healthy
right now.
immediately.
Right.
It is a journey, and the hardest part is just getting started. So I think the most important thing is to educate people and to tell people, again, just get started. And you might be doing well in one area and might need some help in another area. And that's what I hope to provide is just, as an individual, as a business, as a group of providers, this APHPT, we're looking to help people on this journey really achieve true health.
Yeah. So let's talk about the 5 elements. You've mentioned move, fuel, recover, endure, and connect. What is the problem in each one? Let's start with move. What is the problem with this? And not just for the elderly, but how do we start? Do we start now at my age? I'm 40. Do we start at 65? Like, when do we start? What's the problem?
Yeah.
How do we help?
Sure, that's a great question. And I would say we start as soon as we possibly can.
Right. Okay.
And we get in the school systems, and we teach our kids and our relatives and our friends at any age that there are benefits to starting exercise. We can always gain strength at any age. So spreading that message that we may be old, but we are not weak.
Right.
So there is hope at any age to really improve. So if we talk about movement, we know that 50% of Americans get the recommended minimum amount of exercise. So we know that we're just not simply moving enough. So
what is the recommended amount?
Well, the recommendation is, and we talk about this, the American Heart Association says that 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise per week is what is recommended for health. And if we do vigorous exercise, that comes down to 75 minutes per week of aerobic exercise. Now, there's also muscle strengthening, which there's recommended twice a week, and also flexibility and balance training. However, again, the whole point is that we need to dose exercise appropriately. And it depends on the individual. It depends on their medical history. It depends on their experience. It depends on what they like to do. And we need to get a baseline and say, where are you at currently? Okay. A lot of times what I do is I have these pedometers, and I'll give a patient a pedometer, and I'll tell them to take it home, and we'll watch them for a period of time to see what are they walking for a period of time, how many steps are they doing? It's a simple way of just kind of getting started. Right. And then from there, trying to set goals with them and saying, what's a realistic amount that you can get started with? And what we've seen is that with just 15 minutes a day, that we've seen improvements in heart health, in diabetes, in obesity, and it actually can add years onto your life. 3 years has been shown, just 15 minutes a day. So again, I think the message is just getting started. Now, again, we have to also tell people that more is better. So if you can do more, you're going to see more benefits in terms of disease reduction, in terms of longevity, reduced mortality, the more we do. But it really depends on where you're at, kind of meeting that individual where they're at, and just connecting with them and trying to come up with a plan. And really, just like we would give them a medicine, we're dosing the amount of exercise. And the intensity of the exercise is really important as well.
Okay, that's good. And then our next element was fuel. What is the problem with that, and what do we do? How do we combat that?
It's a really important question, and we can talk about that for quite a long time. It's been said that food is the #1 reason that we have poor health in America.
I probably agree with that.
And the American diet, basically, if we look at it as, on an average, essentially is 63% processed foods, which is really quite a bit, 25% animal foods, and 12% whole plant-based foods. So if we want to promote health, what we tell patients is simply, find out where they're at. We ask a number of questions, and it really, again, it depends on the individual, but a generality that we make, and I don't think anybody would argue with this, is we need to eat more plants. That means, fruits, vegetables, leafy greens, nuts and seeds, legumes, all these things.
That no one likes.
Yeah. Again, it's about, how do we, if you read the research, it shows that when we increase our whole plant-based foods and we reduce our animal foods and our processed foods, that really is an aspect to promote health. And we're not telling people that you have to follow a certain diet per se,
Right.
because again, this is about making like lasting lifestyle changes. So, it's sometimes just about eating an additional fruit and vegetable a day. So it's just like with exercise, it's getting started and realizing that, the incidence, of chronic disease in our country, which, affects basically 1 in 2 adults,
Wow.
is affected by a chronic disease.
Wow, 1
Yep.
and 2.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
And yeah, it's a major problem, and we really need to get ahead of it.
Okay, wow. Next is recover. Explain that. What's the problem? How do we do it? What can we do?
There's a quote that I like to tell people that is from a sleep researcher, and he says that every disease in developed nations has causal and significant links to lack of sleep.
Oh, wow.
So sleep is a huge driver of health in terms of many aspects. It improves our mood, it reduces depression, it improves our heart health, improves our memory, improves our strength, our brain. There's so many aspects to recovery and sleep that we really have to emphasize it as a main component of health. And we know that if we look at what are the aspects of what enables us to have good sleep, we also look at the opposite and we say, what happens to those who are sleep deprived?
Right. I'm sleep deprived. I can tell you that I don't get more than 5 hours of sleep. And that's a lot. If I say 5 hours, like 5 straight hours, no. I wake up, I go back. So what's the problem?
Yeah, well,
what's wrong with me?
Well, again, that's the question is why are you not getting sleep? And when we don't get sleep, it's something we need to realize that is an important driver of health. And that we know that 2 of the major sleep issues are insomnia and sleep apnea. So talking to patients and first of all screening for these things is extremely important.
Right.
And also promoting sleep hygiene, proper good sleep hygiene. We know that blue light, and you're around light all day. That's one of the things that has made sleep an issue, is that we're around this electrified light, all the time. The other thing is our work. We work harder, longer hours than we ever have, and we pull all-nighters and all these things, and that's another aspect that again, it's promoting good sleep hygiene. It's turning off the phone a certain amount of time before bed. It's keeping the lights really dark, and that promotes good sleep. A certain temperature is important for sleep. So trying to communicate that sleep helps prevent chronic disease, number one. It also helps with pain. When patients are in pain, we found a relationship between back pain and sleep, that we can treat the back pain, and that can help and that can help sleep.
Ask that. How do you go to sleep if you are in any sort of pain?
Well, again, that's why you see a provider that helps you with helps you reduce the pain. But what we found is we not only we treat the pain, but we also treat sleep. So we talk about, again, good sleep hygiene, things that promote sleep. And sometimes if it's anxiety, we tell people, let's try to work on some deep breathing techniques, some mindfulness activities. These are things that can slow the body down, quiet our mind, and really promote good sleep health.
How do we actually get our minds to get to that point? Because especially for an elderly person.
Yes,
so,
it's a factor.
Yeah.
And we can talk to Ruth later. She'll tell you a little bit about some issues she's had with sleep and what she's done about it. So I think there's a couple of ways, and number one would be just try to focus on breathing. Honestly, it's been shown to, if you do deep breathing techniques where you do breathe in for 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. You do that for a minute, that helps relax the body and promote sleep health. I think talking about things with people, whether friends or relatives, before you get in bed is also, a helpful thing.
Things that might be on your mind. Right?
Absolutely.
That's smart.
Yep.
That makes good sense.
And Ruth will tell you that she uses music as a way to, if thinking about things, again, it takes your mind off. But everybody, I think has a different strategy to use, and there's multitude of strategies. It's just a matter of, again, trying to prioritize sleep as something that's important, that's a driver of health, using good sleep hygiene habits, and then trying to implement one, and then seeing how you do. But it's not easy. there's no
Right.
easy thing I can
There's
say
no
that
easy
says,
answer
this
for
is
me.
going to quiet your mind,
Mhm.
but it takes work. And that's why, I think we'll talk about this in the next element, but we're all going around and we lead very busy lives, okay? And that, some would say, we're all under a low level of stress. And stress is not something that we can avoid. We all have it to some degree. The whole question is, how do we manage it?
Right.
And when we're running around and we're doing lots of activities, whether it's, work, family, friends, social activities even, we do all these activities and we're running from one thing to the next. Sometimes we just need to slow our body down. Our system is kind of revved up. What we call that our sympathetic nervous system. And that's really our fight or flight response. So we do it like, how do we slow down? How do we do that? And I know it's an area I need to work on personally. I have a lot on my plate.
Right.
I'm trying to do a lot of things. And again, for me, I started yoga. That's something that once a week I say I'm going to go there. I'm going to really focus on my breathing. Nothing else is going on. I'm also going to get stretching out of it and balance, some other benefits, but really I'm there for that mindfulness.
Right.
There's certain apps that have been shown, 10 minutes a day of just following an app can really help you improve mental health and physical health. So I think that's another way to do it. So endure, what we talk about is our resiliency. How do we build resiliency?
Right, that's our next
We
point,
all
right?
know that, and that's this is one of the more challenging things to discuss, to teach people. The way I did it when I did the lecture in Plainsboro was I told stories of people that have been resilient in my life and what I've learned from them. So I'll give you an example, and again, we'll talk to Ruth more about this, was my grandmother had Parkinson's. She was diagnosed at a young age, and when she was in her 40s. And when my parents got married, she moved in with us. And she lived with me growing up my whole life. And she just had, she had grit, and she had a toughness about her that no matter what disability she had, she was able to kind of to battle it, and she was able to come out the other side. And that's when we talk about resilience. It's talking about going against a difficult situation and how do you handle it, and just coming out, doing the best you can, and rising up. And so she did it through a positive attitude, through her social support systems, which also helps to build resilience, and just that toughness, that grit and willpower.
Wow.
So endure is a category. We all have it. We tell these stories of people that have exhibited, great resilience, but it's all within us, and that's the hope, and that's what I hope to tell people is that, we all can tap into that. We've all bounced back from difficult situations in our life, and it's a matter
without
of
knowing it sometimes too, right?
Yep.
And then the last element is connect, which I think is a great one because it's one of the questions I ask every guest, especially the ones who are now single and their kids have moved on and now they're retired. So tell me the problem, the biggest problem with that, with connect, like especially with the elderly.
Well, I think that's it's a really good question, and I think when we look at connect, and connect is something we all need people to connect to in our lives, to have that tribe of people, and it doesn't have to be a certain size, just people that that we can go to in our time of need, that that help us when we need help, that we help them. So it's a two-way street.
Give and take, yeah.
And when we think of who we have to connect to, we also think of those that maybe don't have that, and those the opposite. So we say, who are people that may be lonely, and loneliness we know is a public health threat. It's been deemed by our government as a public health threat, trying to identify people that are lonely, and because we know that loneliness is linked to chronic disease, and as well as social isolation, which is a little different than loneliness, but they're both. The World Health Organization has deemed having social connections and social networks is a major determinant of health. So again, studies have looked at all these factors. They've looked at smoking, and they've looked at alcohol, and they've looked at physical activity and BMI and obesity, and they found that social connections and social interactions may be one of the most important determinants of our health. And I think as a healthcare provider, and I think all of us as having friends and family and neighbors in our community, is we have to really keep our eye out for people that are lonely and isolated, because again, that is a thing that can lead to a spiral downhill, and And just like we dose all these other elements, we also have to dose social connections. So
And
it's
how? How
it's
do you
not
do
the
that,
same
though?
for everyone.
Right.
Just like the diet's not the same and exercise, it's the same
Right.
as social connections. Some people are introverts, some people are extroverts.
Right, I was gonna say.
If I said join 5 community groups and make 10 friends, that's not going to apply to everybody.
Right.
So I think just number one is identifying it. Number two is know what their baseline, know what they've done in the past, and just getting a friend or just getting somebody to go out there, Meals on Wheels, or where they're talking to these elders. I think we just have to realize it's a problem and do what we can as community members to help people in their time of need. And sometimes, you see somebody and you might not do something, and we've all done this before. But I think, if we really want to make an impact on health in our society, in our country, in our world, I think this is one of the most important things that we have to really focus on. We all need our tribe. We all need people to connect with. It helps us, stay healthy, helps us have a sense of purpose, and to really stay connected. And it's a big thing right now. Some will argue, how does social media play a part in this? And,
right, I was going to ask that. What was going to be my next question?
Okay, so that's again, it's a long discussion, and I think there are both good and bad aspects of social media and social connections via that. I think it does allow us to remain connected to people that may be far away, so that would be seen as a benefit. But I think we have to realize that doing that online cannot replace face-to-face interactions.
Yeah.
And what I've learned through some of my studies is that, like, when we meet somebody and we give somebody a high five or we give somebody a hug, we release chemicals.
I did not know.
And some of the chemicals one is called oxytocin, and that is the trust hormone. So right away when you do that, you're building a bond with somebody when you do that, right? And it also lowers our cortisol level, which is our stress hormone. So those are two amazing benefits right away. And the other thing is it releases dopamine, which is like natural pain relief, a natural morphine. And all this happens when we connect with people and we touch them. So you can't replace face-to-face with social. And again, we're seeing, with kids that there's been a rise in depression. And mental health is a huge issue. We've seen that with the release of the iPhone, which was in 2011, we saw a 50% increase in depression from 2011 to 2015 in teenagers. So I think it applies to really all of us. I don't think we're immune as we get older from these issues. I'll admit I think I'm on my phone too much. My wife will tell me that. My friends will tell me that.
Right.
And but I also like that personal connection, and I know that I need that to stay healthy. But everybody needs it to a different degree. And I think, again, that goes to the individual basis of all these elements, that, we all need a certain amount, but we all need these things. And if you think of people that are healthy, they demonstrate these qualities. And in our next segment, we're going to be talking to people,
right?
Dr. Phil Felton and Ruth Levy, who I believe are two examples of people that are thriving, that have really aged successfully and aged well. And they each have their own secret to success. But, if we listen to what they have to say, I think we'll hear a lot of these overlapping themes. My message and my goal is to really spread this message that, we can do better in healthcare. We can really work with people to reduce people being on medicines, reduce the incidence of chronic disease, reduce surgeries, and really focus with people on being healthy.
Right.
At any stage, if we talk about kids, middle age, older adults, we can all improve our health through these five elements. And again, it's a journey, it's a process, and my goal is to, through this and my lectures, is to really just spread the message of hope, that nobody is beyond hope. We all can improve, we all can get better. It takes hard work, but we need to be aligned, and work together,
Right.
And it's not just me as a lifestyle consultant or a physical therapist.
It's everyone.
It's everyone. We all have a place in this.
Right.
And if we work together, we can really do great things, and we can really improve the health of our communities.
Wow. Well, this has been fascinating. I really I've never known about these 5 elements, so this is really fascinating to me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing. I'm looking forward to meeting our other guests that you you'll reintroduce us to in another segment. Thank you for stopping by and talking to us about this. That's our show. Please join us next time.